Sometimes being a professed Christian is kind of hard, because everyone likes to come right up to your face and tell you exactly why you're wrong, but also it's hard, especially in these times, to know what the Bible says about certain social issues. Well, you no longer need to wonder. So what does the Bible say about heroes of faith? Now, we've talked about faith before and how if you believe in God and trust Him, fully, He'll reward you in this life and the next life especially. Now, that's great and all, but I, for one, need proof before I really do anything. And I know that sounds a little unchristian of me, but we don't need just blind faith in God, now do we? On top of faith, we have proof in the Bible. So, well, let's look at one of these examples. Today we're going to talk about Gideon, because I bet you haven't really heard of him, and if you have, well then too bad, because you're going to hear about him again. Let's start with Judges 6:1. The Israelites did what was evil in the sight of the Lord, so the Lord handed them over to the Midianites for 7 years. So, of course, the Israelites sinned again, and now the Midianites had control over their land, but why the Midianites? Well, this could be because they are still a little mad at Moses. Back in Numbers 31, verses 1 through 2, the Lord spoke to Moses, "Execute vengeance for the Israelites against the Midianites. After that, you will be gathered to your people." Judges 6:2 through 4 says, "And they oppressed Israel. Because of the Midianites, the Israelites made hiding places for themselves in the mountains, caves, and strongholds. Whenever the Israelites planted crops, the Midianites, Amalekites, and something Arabic came and attacked them. They encamped against them and destroyed the produce of the land, even as far as Gaza. They left nothing for the Israel to eat, as well as no sheep, ox, or donkey. For the Midianites came with their cattle in their tents like a great swarm of locusts. They and their camels were without number, and they entered the land to lay waste to it. So Israel became poverty-stricken because of the Midianites, and the Israelites cried out to the Lord." And of course there's more that keeps going, but you get the picture. It's really bleak, and this had been happening for 7 years. So in Judges 6:7 through 10, the Lord sent a prophet who told them all of which God had done for them, and how they had failed God by worshiping the gods of the Amorites. And now we're caught up with our story that we're starting today, so there you go. So right after that, in Judges 6:11, the angel of the Lord came, and he sat under an oak that was in Ophrah, which belonged to Joash and good Lord, the Old Testament. His son Gideon was threshing wheat in the winepress in order to hide it from the Midianites. So a couple things to point out here. When threshing wheat, one would usually stand on top of a hill and kind of throw it up in the air so that all that excess stuff would be blown away, and all the heavy stuff, which is the stuff that you would, eat or plant in the ground again, would fall back down. And that way, you didn't have to go through and meticulously, handpick every single one. Yet, here, Gideon is in a wine press, which is usually done in the bottom of a rock, out of sight from everybody. That's how much in peril they were, because they literally had to do something that they could just woohoo in the air, and they had to do it like this, in a wine press. Judges 6:12 says, "Then the angel of the Lord appeared to him and said, 'The Lord is with you, valiant warrior.'" So usually if some random traveler kind of comes up and tells you, "Hey, God's with you and you're an awesome warrior," you're likely to rebuttal that statement. And Gideon does this in Judges 6:13 through 16, but I'm not going to read that because, well, that's your job, not mine. So, well, I don't know, read it anyways. So during these verses, the traveler tells Gideon that God is sending him to rescue the Israelites from the Midianites. But Gideon says that his clan is the weakest and that he is the least in his whole family. But see, that's what's great about God. He loves using the weak people. That's why I'm doing this. Well, why would he like to do that? Well, as the old song says, "They are weak, but he is strong." Yeah, I don't know if that's going to be funny or not, but whatever. In fact, in verse 16, the traveler actually tells Gideon that he can defeat the entire army of the Midianites as if they were just one dude. Which is great, because I can defeat one dude super easily. An army, a little bit harder. Now this is where we start to see the parallels between Gideon and Moses, which I think is awesome given everything that kind of happened in Numbers, See, Moses needed signs back in Exodus 4:1 through 9 to prove that he talked to God, and now Gideon needs signs to prove that this traveler is actually a messenger of God. This is shown in Judges 6:17 through 21, where Gideon tells this traveler to stay there while he cooked a young goat and made some broth. So Gideon hurries back and offers it to this guy. When the traveler touches the meat and bread with the tip of his staff, it ignites into flame, and then he disappears. And when the traveler dude vanished from his sight in Judges 6:22, when Gideon realized that he was the angel of the Lord, he said, "Oh no, Lord God, I have seen the angel of the Lord face to face." Well, you don't have to worry. God said, "You're not going to die, you're good. Just go and do what I told you to do." And his timing kind of sucks, but, at least he didn't just, shrug it off and, oh, well, whatever, I must have been tripping. No, instead, in Judges 6:24, so Gideon built an altar to the Lord there and called it "Lord is Peace." It is still an opera of Asbury today. The Lord is Peace, by the way, in some other versions of the Bible is called Jehovah Shalom, which I really like that because it makes me sound Jewish. But that's not really why I like it. I just think it sounds cool. I just don't know why I said that. So from there, God tells him, well, before you go and take out the Midianites, you need to set your family straight. This is shown in Judges 6:25 through 32, where he takes some servants out in the middle of the night to destroy the statue of Baal and the Asherah pole, and to build one there for God, which really pissed everybody else off because, well, they were worshiping that bull thing, Baal of hay. The only reason he wasn't killed is because his father said Baal would protect himself if he was real. So, naturally, Gideon was just fine. That God doesn't exist. And a little side note, Gideon was renamed in that town to Jerub-Baal, which means let Baal defend himself. Don't know what that has to do with the story, but the more you know. So now Gideon has his house in order, now it's time to get Israel in order. So a bunch of armies all joined together, including the Midianites, to kind of attack Israel one last time, and so Gideon kind of calls for a bunch of warriors to get over here fast, because we're all going to die. In fact, his own clan was the first to arrive, which kind of, goes with the whole getting your family straightened out first part. However, Gideon's kind of scared at this point. He's like, yeah, you told me that I'm going to win, God, but I need proof. He doesn't just use blind faith alone. Judges 6:36 through 37 says, Then Gideon said to God, If you will deliver Israel by my hand, as you said, I will put a wool fleece here on the threshing floor. If dew is only on the fleece and all the ground is dry, I will know that you will deliver Israel by my strength, as you said. So, naturally, God does exactly that. But because it's God, he doesn't just kind of, halfway do it. No. When Gideon drains that fleece, there was enough to pour out there for a whole freaking water bowl. But Gideon was still scared because he was like, well, maybe it just rained right there in that little 1 foot, area of a fleece. That would make sense, you would think, right? You squeeze a whole waterful, out, and then you're like, oh, yeah, it rained right there. That wasn't God at all. So, in Judges 6:39 through 40, he asked God again if he'll prove himself. But this time, the big shakeup, have the fleece dry and the ground wet. And of course this happens because God's like, dude, would you just attack them by now? I just showed you, but I'll do it again because guess what? I'm God and I can do it. See, Gideon wasn't really looking for guidance. He already knew what to do. He was looking for confirmation. He wanted to know who God is. And in having God reveal his power and dedication to Gideon, this not only encouraged Gideon, but it showed Gideon who God was and is. So as we finally get into Judges 7:1 through 8, we see that Gideon has prepared a great army to fight off these allying forces. But God says, no, that's too easy. Because with over 30,000 warriors, they'll think, oh, we did that. God didn't do nothing, man. We're awesome. There are like 30,000 of us. We just, not God at all. So Gideon tells the ones who are scared, hey, look, it's cool. Go ahead and go home. Nobody's going to judge. And when they walked away, they all kind of, but they needed them to go, so it was okay. So this leaves Gideon with about 10,000 warriors, but too easy. So God tells Gideon to split them up into two groups. One who drinks from a stream with their mouths, just like that, or the other ones who drink by cupping their hands. They go, like that. I'm actually that type of dude. I don't know. Tell me what you are. I'm kind of curious. Which group would you be in? So once they were separated into these two groups, that left just 300 people. And, well, God's like, yeah, that sounds about right. Go ahead. Fight. That night, God told Gideon to go ahead and attack. But God said, if you're still afraid, go down to the camp, take one of your friends with you, and go listen to their conversations, I guarantee it that you will be totally fine attacking afterwards. So when Gideon got down there, he was like, holy crap, there are so many camels out here. In fact, there were just too many to count, which kind of tells you, whoop, they're rich and there's lots of them. But as he was making his way through the camp, he overheard a conversation between a soldier and another one. And in Judges 7:13, when Gideon arrived, there was a man telling his friend about a dream. He said, listen, I had a dream of a loaf of barley bread came tumbling into the Midianite camp, struck a tent, and it fell. The loaf turned and the tent upside down so that it collapsed. And right after that, his companion's like, yeah, God does not want us to win this one. And the rest of Judges 7 can be summed up into, nope, God did not let you win this one, man. And that's where we'll kind of stop today, because as I was writing this, I realized, wow, I wrote a page more than usual, so I figured this video's already going to be longer. So I hope this was somewhere in between super boring and super interesting, but leaning more on the super interesting side. So what should you get from this lesson? Well, I think two things. The first is that I'm not trying to say that blind faith is a bad thing. In fact, a lot of times we do need it to take that leap of faith, as Indiana Jones 3 says. But at the same time, we really don't need blind faith. As long as we have the faith of a mustard seed, as it says in a verse in the Bible that I will have you go and find, because I didn't do any prep for this one apparently, we can move mountains with that. Now, at the same time, if we're feeling like we don't have enough faith or we don't know what's going to go wrong, you know, look at this. Everything we need is in here. I mean, that's why I started this series. Yeah, it's great to have faith, but we really don't need it because, look, the Bible tells us everything. So, yeah. And the second thing is something I didn't really realize until I was going over today, but God is patient. But more importantly, God keeps giving us chance after chance after chance to do the right thing. And that's comforting to me because I mess up a lot. So I hope you got something from this, and if you didn't, well, let me know. I'm kind of curious, was this Heroes of Faith series any good, or should I just go back to doing my random topics? I don't know. Let me know. I would love to know. Thank you. So what was my act of random kindness? Earlier last week, I was in Tennessee for a little vacation with my friends, and as I was walking around the Pigeon Forge, Gatlinburg area, I can't remember which one it was at that time, there was a man and his little baby in a stroller or whatever, and the baby's just doing baby stuff or whatever, and I can tell the dude is just really tired. And the baby dropped his little, like, cup thing. You know what babies do. I don't know what they're called, the little baby cups. The boss baby dropped the baby cup, and, well, it was rolling out into the street, and I was like, hey, I'll be nice. Scooped that thing up, handed it right to the baby, shoved it in his mouth. I didn't do that, but I did hand it to the dude, and he was like, thank you. Because, well, that would have been fun, and I can only imagine how bad it is to have a baby. Sucker. Anyways, what are we supposed to get from that? Well, I mean, people are stressed 100% of the time. Even when you're out having a little vacation, you're like, oh, hey, everything's great right now, but other people have lives, and I think it was just nice to kind of help a dude out, you know? Help a brother out. So if you found this episode intriguing and you want to go see more, go ahead and hit subscribe so you'll be immediately notified from when the next video comes out, or go ahead and go to my channel where a bunch of them are already up. And a couple of months ago, I started a thing called the Action of the Week, where we as Christians go out and do some act of random kindness, which is an Evan Almighty reference. I'll be doing it as you saw, and I hope you will too, and please let me know about it. I would love to hear. God bless, and may the Force be with you. It's a bug's life. Judges. But no worries, because in Judges 6:26, oh, I almost did it. 6:17, 6:17. I did it again. Whew, it's really hot in here. Hot. Whew. Long sleeve shirt in summer. That was a stupid idea.